All right. So we're diving into the Elon Musk story
Yeah.
today. And I got to say, looking at all this material, he's a really complex figure.
Oh, absolutely.
On one hand, you've got this innovative entrepreneur who seems to defy expectations.
Right.
And on the other, well, he's become a pretty polarizing figure, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right?
Totally. Because it's not just one story. It's like we're looking at two different Elon Musks.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So let's start by going back to those early days.
Okay, sure.
Because, remember when Elon Musk was the cool tech CEO,
Yeah.
shooting for Mars, changing the car industry?
hmm
There was a time when he seemed like untouchable.
Yeah, and I think he tapped into something then that went beyond business. This idea of pushing boundaries of what's possible technologically and what kind of future we could have.
He really captured people's imaginations.
Totally.
So for those who maybe only know Musk from, let's say, recent headlines, can you take us back to those early days? What made him such a force back then?
Well, you can't talk about Elon Musk without talking about Tesla.
Right.
Founding that company back in 2003, that wasn't just about making electric cars. It was about, disrupting a whole industry.
It was a huge risk looking back on it.
Oh, totally. And he understood that to get people to switch from gas-powered cars, EVs had to be more than just, good for the environment.
Yeah, they had to actually want to drive them,
Exactly. They had to be desirable.
which was pretty revolutionary at the time, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Back then, electric cars weren't exactly known for being, sleek and exciting.
Not at all. He challenged the whole idea of what an electric car could be.
And it worked.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Tesla.
Right. SpaceX, come on.
In 2002, he starts SpaceX with this goal of colonizing Mars.
Colonizing Mars. It sounds crazy just saying it out loud.
I know, right? But that's what he was aiming for.
This wasn't about, launching a few satellites.
Yeah, no.
This was about, like you said, pushing the boundaries of human exploration.
Exactly.
And you've got to admire the sheer, audacity of it all.
It's incredible.
Reusable rockets,
Yeah.
making space travel more accessible. It was like something out of science fiction.
It really was, but he was actually making it happen.
And it wasn't just those two companies.
No, not at all.
He was everywhere. SolarCity, Neuralink,
Yeah.
even the Boring Company. It was like he had this Midas touch.
He really did, and I think what made it so compelling wasn't just the successes,
Right.
but the range of his ambition,
Totally.
Yeah.
He wasn't content with just one industry. He wanted to revolutionize everything.
Exactly. And for a while, it really did feel like he could do no wrong.
It's true. He had this aura of invincibility about him.
He did. He could defy expectations, make the impossible seem possible.
And this is where things get really interesting, that perception didn't last forever, did it?
No, it didn't. And I think a lot of that has to do with his, well, let's just say his increasing involvement in politics.
Yeah, and that's a whole other layer to this story,
Yeah, it
isn't
really is.
Because we start to see this clear shift, this turning point, where the public perception of Elon Musk starts to change.
Yeah.
And looking at the sources you've gathered, it seems like a lot of it revolves around his political activity.
Absolutely. And how that started to intersect with everything else he was doing.
Right, because for a while he seemed to at least try to maintain some distance from politics.
Yeah, he did. He cultivated this image of neutrality.
But then, leading up to the 2024 election, things really changed, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And I think that's where we really see this shift take hold.
Yeah, they did, and I think that's where we really see this shift take hold.
Yeah, and it's not just that he, started expressing his political opinions more openly.
Right.
It's the specific direction those opinions took.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit.
Yeah.
Because for a while, he seemed to at least try to, maintain some distance from politics, right?
And they did, yeah.
But then leading up to the 2024 election, things really changed.
They did.
You've highlighted his very public support for Donald Trump as a major turning point.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a huge deal.
It really was. And it wasn't just a quiet endorsement,
Right, like behind closed doors or something.
Exactly. He was out there actively campaigning for Trump.
Appearing at rallies with him.
Yeah, fully embracing the whole dark MAGA label.
Dark MAGA, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine that even 5 years ago.
I know, right? It was a different time.
It really was.
And this wasn't just about aligning himself with a particular candidate either.
Right.
It was about aligning himself with a whole ideology.
And we saw that reflected in his financial support for certain groups, right?
Exactly, like building America's future, those more conservative groups.
Right, and even direct funding of pro-Trump political action committees,
Exactly. This wasn't just talk anymore.
Right.
This was putting serious money behind these beliefs.
And that's where things get even more, I don't know, interesting, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Because around the same time, he acquires Twitter.
Right. Which is X now, of course.
X, right. And suddenly he's got this massive platform to amplify those views.
Exactly, and amplify them. He did.
I mean, we saw it all.
We did, from promoting conspiracy theories, often without any real basis,
Oh, yeah.
to boosting the visibility of all these far-right voices.
And of course, reinstating previously banned accounts like Donald Trump's.
Yeah, that was a huge moment.
It really makes you think about the responsibility that comes with that level of influence.
Absolutely, especially in this digital age.
Because when someone with Musk's reach elevates certain voices and ideas,
Right.
does it create an uneven playing field?
That's the question, isn't it?
Does it drown out other perspectives? I mean, it's something a lot of your sources really seem to be grappling with.
Yeah, and it's an important discussion to have.
It really is. But it's also important to note this pattern of, I don't know, of courting controversy.
Yeah.
Even if it means potentially harming his own businesses, it's not limited to his political activity, is it?
Oh, absolutely not.
And that's something that I think gets lost sometimes in all the noise,
I agree.
because we see this pattern of behavior that predates his more, overt political involvement.
Exactly. It's like a thread running through his whole career almost.
Exactly. It's like a thread running through his whole career almost.
Yeah, like that whole funding secured tweet back in 2018.
Oh, man, that was
That was a major turning point, I think, in how people saw him,
Totally, because it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Tesla. It was about investors. It was about the market.
Exactly. Here he was claiming he had the funding to take Tesla private.
Which sent Tesla's stock price, through the roof.
Oh, absolutely. It was wild.
I remember watching it all unfold thinking, is this really happening?
I know, right? But then, of course, the funding wasn't exactly secured, was it?
Nope, not so much.
The SEC got involved, lawsuits, fines.
It became a whole thing.
It really showed that even Elon Musk, with all his success, wasn't above the rules.
Yeah, and it made people question his judgment,
Definitely. And then there was that whole Pedo Guy situation.
Ugh, yeah, not his finest moment.
Regardless of how that case played out, I mean, publicly accusing someone of something that serious.
Especially with his platform, right?
Exactly. It just highlighted how much damage someone in his position can do with a single tweet or comment.
It's like he didn't even stop to think about the consequences for himself or for the other person.
Right. And that pattern of, I don't know, almost like a disregard for the impact of his words.
It pops up again and again.
It does, like with his response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, right, because he was questioning the severity of the virus.
Yeah, and criticizing lockdowns, even defying health orders at his factories.
Which, again, you can't help but wonder, was he putting his business ahead of everything else?
It definitely made people question his priorities.
It's almost like he thrives on being the disruptor, even if it means going against common sense.
Or going against expert advice.
Right. Like, he always has to be the one shaking things up no matter the cost.
And that brings us back to Twitter, or X as it is now.
Right. Was that the final straw, do you think? Or just another chapter in the Elon Musk saga?
Honestly, it's probably too early to say for sure.
I guess we don't know how it ends yet.
Exactly. But it's definitely been a wild ride.
To say the least. I mean, the way he acquired it, the mass layoffs, changing content moderation policies.
Reinstating banned accounts like Donald Trump's.
Yeah, it's been one controversy after another.
And through it all, he's really solidified his image as this, well, divisive figure.
So where does that leave us?
That's the big question, isn't it? What do we make of Elon Musk?
I mean, on the one hand, you've got this brilliant entrepreneur, a visionary, who's accomplished incredible things.
Right, he's pushed boundaries, changed industries, inspired a generation.
But on the other hand, there's this pattern of recklessness, of disregard for the rules, and frankly, sometimes just plain bad judgment.
And it's that duality, I think, that makes him so fascinating.
Absolutely, and it's what makes this deep dive so important, because it's not just about understanding Elon Musk.
It's about understanding the impact he has, for better or for worse.
Exactly. So for you listening, as you continue to follow Elon Musk's story, pay attention not just to what he does, but how he does it.
Because the choices he makes, the way he uses his power and influence, those are the things that really matter.
And those choices will continue to shape not just his legacy, but the world around us in ways we probably can't even imagine yet.
That's the truth.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all of that.
Until next time.
Thanks for diving deep with us.